Welcome to the Founders Forum podcast, brought to you by the Foxwell Founders, where we interview some of the hottest minds in D2C right now and deep dive on their area of expertise. Everyone that we interview here is a cherished member of our Foxwell Founders community of over 550 advertisers worldwide and are at the cutting edge of what is working right now. I hope you enjoy this, and if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Andrew at Foxwell Digital. And now let's get stuck into this week's episode. Here are Edwin and Tris, our hosts.
Three best ways that we've ever seen to deal with this is
it's one of the things that's working really, really well for our agency right now.
Question of the week, right?
He's going to spill all the tea on TikTok for us. What is the oh wow strategy of the moment? If it's working, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Who buys it even at that time, right? Hey guys, welcome to the Foxwell Founders podcast. We are stoked here today. We have the founder of Cobble Hill Marketing, and they are really in detail in everything that their clients do. They understand so much what's going on, and actually are really starting to plan some big plans for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Another thing that Austin has recently launched is the Marketing Factor podcast, where he interviews founders of brands who are scaling, who are really in the weeds and know what they're doing. So we're really excited to have him here. Thanks so much for joining, Austin. Edwin, kick us off with the first question.
So you talked with these people, you talked with all these interesting people. Tell me, what is the wildest thing that you've heard, like interviewing these marketers so far, doing this podcast?
There aren't that many wild stories that I'm able to glean out of these people. It's more of this sense of no one has it figured out, right? For instance, we've worked with this this company called Callie's Biscuits for a fairly long time, and we've helped them scale their growth. And they sell biscuits, right? And obviously, that's something you don't necessarily buy online. But they've been able to successfully kind of create an e-commerce business for themselves outside of their retail and their, they wholesale it and everything else like that. But their e-commerce is pretty successful. And it's, when I had the conversation with her, it seemed like she was like, I can either go two ways now. I can either get an investor, or I'm not going to be able to scale this much further. And just hearing her say that, it was like, okay, there is kind of a cap on the ceiling here especially for businesses with potentially lower margins. Yeah. It's really difficult to scale a business without any sort of outside, taking it from 0 to 20 million is not that hard, but taking it to that $100 million brand, you need some sort of outside capital. I feel like a lot of people kind of bootstrap this stuff, and so Carrie just seemed very almost like a deer in headlights at this point, and she's been doing it for 15 years. She's like, I need what's next. So that's a little that's not a crazy story, but it's a little bit eye-opening. I always come back and I tell my team too, it's like, think of yourself as the business owner, right? You have to think of yourself as the business owner. What would you do if this was your money, you're scaling? Would you want to, is a 1-to-1, is a 1x ROAS okay here? If you were the business owner, would you be comfortable with that? And, I think that it helps us make better business decisions for our clients if we put ourselves in their shoes. How about you? Yeah. What have you guys heard that's insane?
Yeah, well, I was going to say just on that one there, like when it comes to like that kind of question, it's funny. Agency owners often have the same question posed to them. It's like, are you're coming in, you're asking the client or the person you're spending the money on behalf, and you're like, oh, I'm going to spend $100,000 of your money this month. But so many agency owners and so many campaign managers don't think, okay, they're just saying 1x is okay and not asking the question, is it okay? Are you going to run out of money? Because I've consulted with agencies before, Webtopia, I consulted with many agencies and met so many clients leaving those agencies, going, we can't afford to pay the agency anymore. It's like, well, and agencies like, we're getting good results, but they can't afford to pay us. It's like, well, they weren't getting good enough results. If
Yeah.
they can't afford to pay you, well, they're running out of money. So that's the thing. It's like they ran out of money. It's like, well, you've done a bad job, And it's the difficulty is just kind of, where do you draw that line? Where do you kind of, whose responsibility is it to go, well, are you actually making money at a 1x, or do you need to hit a 2.5 and make sure that you're actually going to be making money? And one of the craziest stories I suppose I've seen is brands kind of starting to see scale and start to really push up spend, and they see their sales going up, and they don't realize that it's just seasonality, and then they order a shitload of stuff, and then they're left with it, and it's like, well, guys, what did you expect? Like, it was, everyone bought through Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We advise you, look, this is a seasonality thing. It's not going to be big in January. They bought a bunch of the product, and who knew? Comes January, they're sitting there with a bunch of product, going, where's all the sales gone? And it was as simple as that. And it was the first, like, I was look, it wasn't as an agency owner I saw that. It was more of a junior media buyer. But one of the things I suppose I learned from that was, the responsibility is not just on the founder or the person who's running it, even if it's a person in-house. It's a whole team. It takes a whole team to get this kind of stuff to grow, and people talking to each other and listening to each other as well is massively important.
I think the wildest thing I heard doing this podcast is, I think when Will went over AI personas. Do you remember that, Tris?
Yeah,
like,
that was crazy.
Like step by step over how he builds AI personas, because basically he leverages he did like a step by step on how because interest-based targeting is basically built around personas, right? And that is some of the most legwork that you will do, building out that persona, because the brand owner never always tells you the same thing, like, oh, this lady, she shops at Bloomingdale's and then she grocery shops at Trader's, and you're like, this doesn't help me for anything.
Right.
Like, I can't
That's everyone. Yeah.
right? And like, he did like the step by step about how he scrapes the comments off of Amazon, and he scrapes them off Reddit, and then he makes the AI, he inputs it into the AI, and then the AI builds the persona, and then based on that persona, then he's making the creative, right? And it takes the stuff that used to take us a bunch of time, because I've done the same work, right? And I remember like being at like 9-10 o'clock at night being like, I can't scrape anymore, like I can't synthesize these reviews anymore. And then it, like, you could do it in like, I don't know, an hour, like 2 hours or something, if you really want, like you really want to go deep into it. I think that is probably that, and the fact that we've interviewed so many people that I think I understand that the best guys in the world, or the best people in the world doing ads, are basically like all within one band. Like there's no one like exceptionally better than the other. They're only exceptional products, right? That make us look really good. But like, once you balance everything out, like the best ones in the world they sit within this one range, right?
Yeah.
And then they're exceptional products.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I think that the product definitely goes a long way. There's only so much your advertising can do to sell product. If you have to have an incredible product, you have to have an offer, and I think it's more than just the offer too. I mean, I think it has to be something that people generally want. You can create demand a little bit, but to scale something significantly, it has to be something that is truly unique and truly valuable for people to want to buy once, but hopefully buy again and again, and that you're offering, new styles and new ways of presenting it, and packaging it up. Otherwise, it's just, you can have a great product, and then once everyone buys it, then what are you going to do next, right? And I think that, but back to your point about AI, I think that that has been one of the best things that's happened for media buyers in, the past 2 years, and even just the past 6 months, leveraging those AI tools to help create better briefs, or more thorough briefs, to help scrape different personas to put together and synthesize information at a much, just a better rate, to take a look at something, produce something in seconds, and then use that to then synthesize again and again and again. And you're really kind of breaking down the fundamentals where something, I think all of us probably have like an intuition about something. That's what's brought us this far, right? We know how to do something, or what's going to work for a product in our mind, or how we're going to, that general intuition. But being able to then communicate it to your team and how to execute it, that part to me has always been a little cumbersome, a little kind of longer than it needs to be. And I think AI has helped me communicate things a little clearer to my team, and then for my team to take that and synthesize information even further. Mm-hmm. I'm looking forward to more AI tools that will provide better data modeling for the types of stuff that we do, and I think that's not too far off. I think that it's going to be something like Claude or ChatGPT or whatever, where you can just plug in a spreadsheet and everything like this and get a synthesized way of, hey, help me actually calculate this a little bit better for new customer revenue, or what is the contribution margin here? Very clearly building these tools out and having a platform that works. Because that's the value that we add now, like you were saying, to help these businesses so they don't, like you were saying, Tris, like, so your clients don't say they can't pay you anymore. They're going to pay you for your brain power in the future, because these platforms are just kind of, they're finding the customers on their own. There's only so much tweaking you can do at this point, it feels like to me, outside of the creative.
Exactly. I think the one thing as well, like AI is massive, not just obviously for customers, but actually for agencies as well. We've recently onboarded a new AI tool called Kaizen, which is really, really useful it listens to your conversations, it reads your emails, it looks at your Slacks, and it kind of helps you understand, not necessarily, certainly at scale, it's like, okay, this is what the customer is really interested in. This is the type of customer that you're talking to. This is what they should, and then it also looks at your results and stuff like that and says, this is how you're comparing to what the client is saying that you want. Like, AI is starting to be very pervasive into everything we're doing across an agency, not just with the client, but actually with our own results and how we're managing that as well. I mean, you're saying you've got kind of a smaller number of clients, and that works, and that that helps from a personalization point of view. But then when it comes to kind of the larger agencies and how they kind of use AI, it's starting to become very informative. It's starting to really whereas before it's like you might write a sonnet for you, and you can write maybe an email for something. It's actually starting to become in our day to day. It looks at sentiment analysis, and that's one of the things we're starting to use it for in our ads as well. As we're starting to write ads, we analyze the copy and look at sentiment analysis and see what people are feeling and how they're feeling about it.
That's super interesting. Processing. Yeah, that is probably very helpful from a larger agency or a larger organization point of view, because that's always been the scary part for me about scaling, is losing the personalization and the touch with the clients.
It's massive, and the other side of it as well is not just touching the client at your point of contact as well. It's looking at the wider scale. It's like who actually makes the decision.
Yes, for sure.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Edwin? What kind of AI stuff are you seeing working across the board?
We don't use AI super extensively. So the AI that we do use is mostly like summarizing conversations that we have with customers, right? So that it inputs into our CRM like Fireflies, and then the Fireflies goes into our CRM because everybody hates summarizing conversations with customers. Um, we use AI for marketing to figure out to help streamline our cold outreach a lot. For our cold email outreach, there's a ton of minute steps that we used to do by hand that now we could have AI do. So, for example, finding a founder, the name of a founder of a company, right? We we feed a spreadsheet in, and it has their forget which AI we use, but like it could run a search. It could run a search and just search the founder name, and it's a 2-minute process for a human being, but you have to deal with that human being, right? And you have to deal with the sick days of that human being and etc. If you have a machine that's just like, give me more, like, that's like it's insane, and you could do things at such higher scales, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's where I don't really like it so much for like for actual production stuff. It's more for like back office stuff that we find ourselves using it more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great tool for ideation. I've found like we certainly don't use it to create the actual creative output that we're producing.
Mhm.
Though I do think some of the video AI tools are getting closer and a little bit more useful, not to generating actual like, you know, but to help edit video clips, right? And that's not necessarily AI, but it does. I think the real gold is learning how to prompt AIs, especially like prompt large language models in a much clearer way to synthesize stuff. And I found that Claude has just been terrific for that.
Yeah.
It seems to be much more powerful than ChatGPT, and I've found different threads and people kind of uncovering different ways to prompt stuff to get a much richer output than
Mhm.
what would be pretty vanilla coming from ChatGPT.
I was going to say you probably used Claude mixed with ChatGPT as well. You can kind of use them go between each other as well. Shifting gears slightly, just to kind of more focus on what you're doing with your clients. Like one of the things that we're hearing a lot, and everyone's kind of saying it, it's the vogue, and if you're not saying it right now, you're weird. Creative is the new oil. It's the new data. Creative is the money maker. Is that something you're seeing from all your clients? You're seeing that it's really the thing that pulls, kind of changes levers and pulls levers?
We've always thought that. So we started as a creative agency. So I was always reluctant to my background is though I did start at a social media agency in 2010, building Facebook apps and running Facebook campaigns and stuff that were far different from what Facebook is now, Meta is now. But creative for us has always been kind of the most important thing. And actually, it's what our clients came to us a lot for. So to me, it does. If you're not an agency that can produce your own creative, I think that's gonna be a real struggle for businesses in the future. I think that for marketing agencies in the future, because of the way that these platforms work now, I think a lot of it does have to do with refreshing creative. We just see that we're refreshing creative very regularly.
How regularly are you refreshing?
I mean, it depends on the level of ad spend, but I would say that at least every 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
We want stuff to get enough spend. We don't have any clients that spend $1 million a month, so we're not running. We're not like Common Thread Co., who's running all of these different, very vast tests with stuff. But for the test that we are running, for a client that's spending $50,000 a month, we're refreshing creative, every 2 weeks. And not refresh, we're not pulling everything down, obviously, but we're making mild adjustments or updating offers or testing different landing pages, testing different types of video content, different voiceovers. We've utilized a lot of, we think that because we work with kind of luxury brands, there has been always this emphasis on sticking within the brand guidelines, and it needs to feel very much like, an ad that you'd see in a magazine. And we're training our customers that, hey, actually that doesn't perform as well. People want to see more UGC style content. We want to stitch together stuff that feels a little bit more in platform. And that has been, I think the shifting of the creative emphasis to being like a little bit more like, not rough, but not quite as polished has been a change for our team, because our designers are very skilled graphic designers who don't necessarily know how to make things that aren't pretty.
So how do you have that conversation, right? We all know that you have to have that conversation. We've all had that brand that is really a stickler on their brand guidelines. And so tell me, like in practical terms, having that conversation, how do you sway them to that way, the less polished way?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty easy conversation to have now. It's, let's run a test here. Let's run the same thing, same landing page, same offer, whatever else. But let's try a glossy kind of on-brand look and feel. And then let's try something that feels a little bit more like you shot it with your iPhone, and you could send us like an unboxing video on your iPhone, or just a small voiceover, you wearing it, putting it on, talking in front of the camera. Let's try those two things, and let's see which one performs better. And I think that I had a great conversation with actually my old boss at a company called Movement Strategy. His name's Jason Mitchell. And he runs a huge social agency. I think they're like 500 people or something now, with offices all over. They run, they do social for Netflix and all this stuff. And the way that they approach these bigger businesses like Netflix to embrace this, which isn't quite as hard as I don't think you would think. Like, Netflix is pretty open, but they say, listen, we know you have a brand guideline, but let's think of this more cinematically. How can we actually just think about the brand as a movie or a cast of a movie or something, and come up with almost these personas for creative that feel a little bit more like you can create and react to things in, doesn't necessarily need to be like, these are the fonts you need to use every time, right? It's more of, how would this particular character actually act in this scenario? And that gives them the leverage of, let's say a new platform comes out, TikTok or whatever it is, they're much easier to adapt to that and not be restrained by, hey, this is actually like the creative restriction from a graphic standpoint. And they're able to just be like, let's utilize a persona and let the platform kind of dictate how we talk about this.
I guess the thing is like you can build this big brand idea, but you can have creative iterations of it within these platforms. You can still have this narrative that, this is like the best brands in the world have this background narratives that are like that creative that you're talking about, is that movie that we, again, just back to kind of some of the brands we talked about, the founder videos and the founder creatives are the ones that work the best, because it's part of that string, that narrative that goes, this is why we've created this. And talk about problem solution, us versus them. They all fit into the mothership that is that big narrative, that big movie kind of brand that's there, right?
For sure.
You can't create that on AI. That's another thing.
100%. You cannot create that in AI. And I mean, AI is great for that ideation, but it's never going to replace human brains thinking with emotional intelligence to craft something that feels like that it's real. I mean, I just don't think that there's a use case for it just replacing people entirely when it comes to art,
Yeah.
creative.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've got that video. At the time of recording, anyway, ChatGPT are going to be releasing or OpenAI is going to release that Sora thing, where it's like it start to make videos out of prompts. So it starts to make its own art, but it's like, well, hang on, where does this become? Like, does it start to make its own Shopify store, make its own? Do we have AI content creators specifically on their own?
That is
It's
a
cool.
thing. Yeah, I've seen that there are AI content creators out there.
Yeah.
But I do think that is a fad, right? That's not the end case of AI, right? People are going to. I think it will make things like making a movie, a Hollywood feature film, will probably become a lot quicker and more efficient and less expensive because of AI. But I don't think that you're not going to replace the actual everything about it, the writing, the acting, the camera work. I think there is something to be said for that human connection. At least that's what I want. I don't want to read AI garbage. I don't want to watch AI garbage,
Yeah. It's a tough one, right? Because where does it become? Where does the line get drawn? So you see, there's the stigma behind AI garbage, but then sometimes they could be stuff that you're watching. There's ads out there that people are watching right now that are just entirely made from AI.
Yeah, but I know. I can tell now, at least. I can tell when they are. I'm a surfer, and I get advertised. That's probably the biggest thing in my feed is surf content. And I can tell just by knowing this is AI, because that's my thing. So I have to think that other people know that. And my kids are I have an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they're all pretty savvy they can tell when something's AI.
Yeah. What's that? Deep fakes was obviously the first kind of start.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Some scary ones.
There's scary stuff.
Tom Cruise running for president and stuff like that is pretty scary.
For sure.
How do you find the? I mean, look, we're 4 months or 3 months away from an election. How are you finding the performance of your ads being affected by that? Do you think it's going to be different 4 years ago?
I don't think so. I don't think it. Perhaps it becomes a little more expensive, right? We tell clients that it's gonna be more expensive. Hopefully, the good news is, I guess, is that the election happens before Black Friday, Cyber Monday, so we have that on our side a little bit. Is that hopefully the political
almost like they planned
ads? Yeah, the political. Yeah, we have the real, I guess, Black Tuesday first.
Yeah.
But I think, for us, it gets a little bit more expensive. It got a little bit more expensive last time, but everything makes these ads more expensive. You'll have it's difficult. I don't see this stuff at the scale that, I think that other agency owners see it, where they're spending, like I said, $1 million a month per brand. But I can tell, just generally when to pull back. And a lot of the brands that we work with are very seasonal, or, they have a focus, or they have a particular launch they want to push. They're dropping something, or they have a sale, those type of things. That's really where we find pushing and pulling on ad spend. I don't know about, I don't think that the politics stuff weighs as heavily on it as maybe something else does, honestly.
Yeah. What other kind of things do you think are going to be affecting ads in the short term between now and, say, Christmas?
Well, we're already starting planning for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I don't know how soon you guys start planning that for your brands. Yeah, I mean, we're kicking off those conversations. We kicked them off in June, where we're, here we basically give them a roadmap for what they need to be working on. We're not launching ads, but we do a lot of email marketing too. So it's a lot of kind of warming up the email, getting people to ensure that, SMS and all of this stuff. We have found that, some of our clients are their performance is down compared to last year, I would say, this summer. And I'm not sure what that's due to, if it's, the ones that generally do well in summertime are still doing great, but they're not up significantly, right? Though we have some clients that are at 50%, so it's such a wide range of performance that I really think it comes back to your product. Do you have a great product? Is it something that you're generating excitement for? I think there's so much more that goes into the ads working than the actual creative or the ads, the type of targeting or anything else. I think it's, do they have PR that's gone out, that's good? Is their organic social presence doing great? Have they released any new products? There's so much more that goes into this stuff than just the ads for the ads to perform well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We're talking about offers, kind of the big things that are really moving the needle at the moment. Is this? It's various different offer testing. There's a lot of landing page testing we're finding is working at the moment. Some definitely though is making sure the offer makes sense. And one thing that's actually happening a lot for us at the moment is people are holding out for sales. So Memorial Day sales, Halloween, all that stuff. We're expecting some big swings during those sales, and they're something that it's more pronounced this year than ever.
Yeah, you think people are holding out for sales more? Yeah, I do think that. You find that for the past few Black Friday, Cyber Mondays, I've found that people are buying earlier, right, for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So you want to be first to wallet or whatever they call it. You want to maintain that wallet share. That's holding out until a Halloween sale right now from purchase decision it's a pretty long way away. I'd find that I'm a little skeptical of that.
All right.
What about you, Edwin?
On holding out?
Holding out. Do you think people are holding out for Black Friday or sales, or do you find that sales are consistently up and to the right?
Honestly, I think, generally speaking, a lot of our people are up and to the right. For the people that are lagging, I think it has more to do with business fundamentals than where the market is. So, meaning that, like, it might be a brand that did really well previously, but, like, they haven't released as often, or their releases haven't been as on point, right? Like, we had a legging brand that they did spectacularly, right? Like, 22, 23, they did it spectacularly. 24, not so much. And then we resurrected them, and then they tanked, like, for 1 month. And I was like, what's going on? And I looked at what they released, and I was like, why are you releasing this? Like, just the product itself, I was like, this is like a BS release that you just did. And the creative director, like the designer, was going through some personal stuff, right? And so she didn't release like something that was as on point or as resonant with her audience as she normally did, right? And that happens a lot with, like, it's hard to recruit. We had a brand that made one of the wildest swimsuits I've ever seen in my life. Like, there are very few. We handle more swimsuit and lingerie than most places, and for me to say that is a lot. And then she couldn't figure out a follow-up next season for the following season.
Right.
And so it just didn't do as well the next summer. Like, her brand overall didn't do as well the next.
And had she ordered a lot more product on the back of the previous one doing?
Yes. Yeah. She was not having such a great summertime after that. Um, but it was also to be expected because she came with this wild design the previous season, and then she's like, we're releasing. I was like, we're geared, and then she sent me the assets, and I was like, what is this? I was like, this looks like what I could find at Bloomingdale's. Like last year, you came with some really wild stuff. Um,
And she just didn't have it. It wasn't the same. Wasn't the same kind of release.
but it happens. Like how many brand owners do you know that like they just don't they can't follow it up because and it's understandably very difficult to follow up like success after success after success,
Mhm.
right? And it's people.
Especially in swimwear, man, it's so hard. We've had some swimwear businesses, if you know that is a very tricky because there's always so many new brands coming out and everyone wants to try something different.
Yeah, and it's like it's not. People talk about continuously growing like it's a normal thing. It's not. Like it's not, right?
Yeah.
Because you got to continuously be creative, and you got to continuously have great marketing. Like it's hard,
Yep.
and like it's hard, and then the market forces have to be behind you as well,
For sure.
right? Because you could have the best restaurant in the world, but then like if you opened it during COVID, you're mucked,
Mm.
right? Like that's how it was. That's how it is.
It's crazy. It's
It's
crazy.
wild.
Austin, just on your side, then, are you like, when it comes to generating new leads, generating new business? Is that are you running ads yourself? Are you like, how are you kind of finding new people coming in? It's mainly referrals, perhaps.
Yeah, unfortunately, we haven't had much success with cold outbound leads or cold advertising or doing any sort of, we've run paid search campaigns, we run paid social campaigns, of course, because that's what we do. We're email marketers. We found that referral works best. I've started a podcast, active on LinkedIn. Uh, I make it a point to reach out to old clients pretty regularly, catch up with them. Um, that seems to be the referral seems to be the best, but I know that to scale a business, you need more than that, right? And so that's really what I'm trying to unlock now, because I think we've spent the past few years really honing in on what is our service offering. Because we've been doing this for, over 10 years now, our business has evolved so much. The process of getting new business has always been referrals, or when we were building websites, they would say, hey, I loved the look of that website, or they would find us somehow, who built this, the Cynthia Rowley website, and we would get a lot of inbound leads from that. And now, as we do paid search, paid social, email marketing, that work is much more behind the scenes because you can't put your stamp on that work. So the way that we found it is reaching out to old clients, reaching out to current clients, just kind of digging through and making relationships kind of personally. Never had a sales person. I do pretty much all of the selling of the business myself. And I've also found that we kind of have a capacity for what we can take on. I don't want to, I've found that scaling too quickly sometimes in terms of hiring is always kind of something that I want to avoid.
Yeah.
And but I know that's not the way for everyone, but that seems to have worked for us for now. And slowly, surely, I think that will kind of introduce new ways of selling. And I think the podcast has actually helped a lot. My goal with the podcast was it's called The Marketing Factor, and was to reach out to business owners, other marketers like yourselves, and glean a little bit of wisdom. I know that's not necessarily a novel idea in this space, but it has given me the ability to create content for myself in a much higher clip. I found it really hard to keep up with my own Instagram, to generate novel ideas through just email. I don't sit down and just write a lot. My wife is the writer, but I don't sit down and write a ton of stuff about something that we do. I've just never I'm more of a visual learner and communicator. And so I've found that the podcast, I'm able to craft little snippets of content from that, from my wisdom, other people's wisdom, and put it together in a visual way. And I think that's how people learn now too, you know, and see new things. So that's.
And has it helped your agency grow? Like, how has that affected your agency growth?
Yeah, I'd say we've gotten, you know, I've gotten new leads. I've gotten people, you know, I'm able to keep up with my email marketing in a much, because every episode I send out a little, you know, a digest about it, and I'm sending it out to about 5,000 or 6,000 email list that we've accumulated of people that are actively kind of engaged, which I feel like is a pretty good, for a marketing agency, pretty decent.
Huge.
And so, yeah, I think we've definitely gotten 3 or 4 clients since I've started. And I started it, you know, maybe 3 or 4 months ago. And so I've found the value in that being kind of, you know, you want to put yourself out there as an expert, because what we're doing requires a level of expertise. And so you want to make sure that people can see you as who you are. And I've found that I want to talk to, it's also, you know, I want to talk to certain people who I admire in the space, or who have done incredible, you know, work and made grown these businesses pretty successfully. And a lot of what I found through the podcast is a lot of these people have grown this just through like sheer tenacity, right? That's what you find. It's not like scaling through VC firms or something like that and acquiring customers through paid ads. And I think that's kind of we get a lot of people who come to us with a business idea. They just launched a website and they want to scale pretty quickly. And I think it's really hard right now to scale a business without having a lot of different factors other than just paid.
Going right, It's funny, right? You say that about tenacity. It's so funny. So many of our most successful brands that are working with us, they've had some hard times. We were speaking with Trace last week about from Supply. He was telling some real war stories about when stuff wasn't going right. It's the people who stick with it when it's like, you know, when stuff is not going right. It's not cashing in on buying Ferraris. It's not going to live in Palm Beach. It's, you know, it's actually, you know, it's when you know, you're eating ramen for a week and you're like, I really truly believe this. You know, it's going to really work. That's the people who really succeed. They're the ones that can really go for it.
Yeah. And you know, I think too, now we've been based in Charleston, South Carolina, which is pretty far removed from, you know, a lot of metro areas, big metro areas with big brands and headquarters and stuff like that. So a lot of the work that we've done has been with these smaller brands who don't have tons of capital that they can invest in this. So it's a lot of kind of slow growth, and they're able to, you know, these business owners are able to figure things out on their own, you know, and that is what I've found is the most successful in this, is someone who can actually go in and maybe mess with Facebook Business Manager themselves. They kind of know it. They can run ads a little bit themselves because they've had to do it for a little bit at some point, you know, and they need an expert to come in and help them.
All right, guys, that's it for us today. We heard a ton from Austin about running a podcast, running the agency. It was a lot. I'm Edwin.
I'm Tris.
We'll see you on the next one.